This week on the Rental Report Review, Nature is Unforgiving in a Violent Nature, 2024. Close Your Eyes and the Adventure Begins, Dreamscape, 1984. H.G. Wells' fantastic out-of-this-world show, The Invisible Man, 1933. We go in, we get what we want, we come out. Killing Zoe, 1993. At a college in Rome, a professor is in a deep depression. His stunningly beautiful wife has left him for another man, and he wants her back very badly. The Voyeur, 1994. Not since Blue Ruin have I been this immediately and comprehensively underwhelmed and finally agitated and incensed by an up-and-coming indie filmmaker's first-ish film. I'm going to cut a little bit of a promo here. This is what I call cinema of adornment. Films that are dressed in aesthetics, conventions, narrative structures of other films, a shell of signs, with no coherent or underlying or internal animating spirit, no sense of how the signs work subtextually to feedback with emotions and drives and cause transformation. I would say it's like three kids stacked on top of each other in an overcoat and a fedora and some shades, trying to sneak into an adult film. But it's just the clothes, lying there, doing nothing. The gore effects are pretty great. More than one case I puzzled over how it was done, but only one moment really flexed some chops worth talking about. But it was wrapped in probably one of the more perplexing story moments. One moment worth talking about ain't nothing. But so many of the set pieces were downright banal to incredulous. I was incredulous. But what really broke me was when the movie finally sat down to introduce the innocent, not-so-innocent horror fodder. It's not that they were one-dimensional or stereotypes. They were vague, spiteful avatars with mostly the same voice, and they didn't really even get what they deserved. As a professional wrestler, I give In a Violent Nature half a star. It's really like 3 stars. I don't think this film believed in itself, in its conceit, in its ending. Not really. This feels like fronting. It feels a little like posing. And I'm not sure which way the bet was hedged, but there was something interesting in this that really lit a fire that then got buried in artifice, instead of a round or two of deeper development. I would also like it more if it didn't feel so viewer hostile. It was a curious compression algorithm of high and low cinema. I wish it trusted itself to take the POV conceit religiously and really break the mold. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this will get a mild cultural reevaluation in the next couple of years.
Alex Gardner has a unique talent, and even he doesn't know what it can do.
No one has ever done it before. No one has even conceived of doing it before.
You're going into another person's dream. I'm going to have to see that, David.
Actually, probably more like an evaluation, because I don't think anyone who didn't go to a video store in the late 80s has any idea this film exists. I am pretty sure Christopher Nolan knows this film exists, though, because hold the beer, Paprika. Dreamscape might be the initial inception for Inception, possibly even for Paprika. Now I'm really out on a limb. Yes, this is an 80s sci-fi horror-ish kind of film about dream hacking public-private ventures into the sub and unconscious. But as its poster intimates, there is a bit of genre confusion. Well, and outright misrepresentation. This is a post-MK Ultra deep Cold War, moonshot into the brain thriller that is a bit too E.T. Poltergeist family safe, with a little indie Han Solo shoehorned into the lead.
You want my secrets?
Just want some advice.
Which is fine. It just felt that way. That being said, it's lifted out of the mire by the earnestness of Max von Sydow and Kate Capshaw, with an incredibly fraught and complex sequence between her and Quaid that tickles some deep moralistic issues that I wish they played with further. But David Patrick Kelly does his best to Hulk punch this thing into the stratosphere and collective consciousness, but is kind of butted out of the picture most of the time. This is some of my favorite of him. If you love him and haven't seen this one, you have to see this one. I give Dreamscape 1984 3.5 stars. Once I took the lizards as more of a daring metaphor, the more I immediately liked the film and kept it on a weirdly subversive track for me. I'm saying lizard people around the world. I wish this film played with it further. First of all, it's hilarious that this film is sponsored by the NRA and essentially advocates shooting blindly into thin air in an attempt to bring down an invisible villain.
He meddled in things men should leave alone.
I don't think this barely 60-minute movie starts at the right moment. When we come in, Jack, the Invisible Man, is already transformed, already on the run, already grinding an axe with people we haven't met, and with a society that is, for the most part, off-screen. What does Vonnegut say? Start a story as close to the end as possible? This was way too close to the end.
You're crazy to know who I am, aren't you? All right, I'll show you.
I really think we needed to see a pre-transparent, if not optimistic, then ambitious young man on an obsessive quest that flips hero to villain and action to tragedy.
Why do it, Griffin? A scientific experiment at first, to do something no other man in the world had done.
I mean, maybe 10 more minutes in the beginning, and you wouldn't even need any more sets or actors, unless this whole thing is a Claude Rains workaround. The thing about tragic villains for me is that I want to think they're redeemable somehow, and without evidence that they have it in them, a lot more needs to be seen, coming apart of the cracks, that kind of thing, than other characters saying he was once good and brilliant and all that. But who am I? What do I know? Everything else about this is incredible. For 1933, hell, for 1990, I just watched Invisible Maniac, and this was technically superior in almost every way. Talk about an apples-to-apples comparison. And so fully realized that little to no adjustment was needed for this archetype in the 60 years plus since this. It moves quickly and cleverly, focuses the latter exhilarating third on the nerdy logistical process of catching a sci-fi monster, a convention that ripples through some of my favorites of the genre. I just wish it weren't the Bobbies so hot to trot, looking to scratch that trigger finger that were in charge. I give The Invisible Man 1933 4 stars. Loved Claude Rains, but really wanted to see him transform internally or under the bandages, maybe a little too late kind of way. He's fully well capable of it. Shout out Gloria Stewart, one effects masterpiece to another.
Comment.
Do you like Eric Stoltz or not? As a main course is the question.
Bonjour.
I don't know. Killing Zoe, inaugural outing by Roger Avary as a not only solo writer, but director.
Still, all the banks are closed, but this one. This is the boat we must get into. 3 hours. It's too long, we have to be in and out like that.
The big step. The big test. There's a lot of game theory on first features, but intentionally or not, they tend to be a culmination of influences and preoccupations that have been germinating, in some cases over decades, either gel into a personal, somewhat transcendent product, or crumble from lack of structural integrity.
Buy an island. Put my ex-wife on it.
Avary Zoe is a sound, coherent, postmodern, not so much critique as observation, argument of and for the innate desire to rebel against what? What do you got? This film is aptly titled, at least in as much that Julie Delpy is the most magnetic presence in this film. Maybe even too much. She might be drawing too much attention. She might tip the balance too much at times, because I don't really buy her not being noticed immediately in the part of the movie where she would be recognized immediately. Still trying not to spoil things here. What doesn't quite work? The Gen X nihilism I can deal with. I don't know why it needs to be set in Paris, other than I get why it needs to be set in Paris. I don't know if I like Eric Stoltz. I should say because of his idiosyncratic performance, I can't reach his character and don't really care about his arc. I think it's written fine. I love Chloe Sevigny. Is that right? That's probably not right. There's no way that's right. And I know many people who absolutely do not. I just haven't found my way to tough guy Stoltz.
Do you know Paris?
Spent some time here a long time ago when I was young.
I give Killing Zoe 1993 3.75 stars.
I'm glad you came. How is it?
As far as first films go, this is a proper genre shake-up, punching well above its weight. About this time, a lot of American action cinema is still pulling cues from westerns, from German, expressionistic detective thrillers. And Avary is exploring a new space of Asian and French, European, Eastern European genre and new wave cinema. There's John Woo in here, all sorts of French crime. It's VHS action cinema through a neorealist, formalist layer. I just wish I liked Eric Stoltz.
We are rich, man.
We're not out of here yet.
I've only seen this in Rules of Attraction with Avary as a director, and not much more aside from the big ones as a writer. I want to see much more of him. He's doing some cool, unique shit, and listening to him on his podcast with Tarantino and Gala Avary, he sounds even more interesting now than ever. Cool shit.
Eric Stoltz, Julie Delpy, Killing Zoe.
Oh, gee. I guess this means our friendship is in trouble.
Let's cut to the chase. Cinema is voyeurism. Maybe there is something to the accusations of an inherent immoral medium, sitting in the dark, watching people who can't watch back. They disclose their intimate nature, whatever nature. And we fall in love, we judge, we become. I would take issue with Godard and Haneke. Cinema is perversity 24 times a second to seek truth, at least when it's at its best. The Voyeur by Tinto Brass, very much by Tinto Brass, is a tearing with the voyeuristic impulse, the game where we dance between mystery and revelation, where we have to be careful what we wish for, what we wish to find out, and perhaps have to handle natural, metaphorical, mythical transgressions with reflection and an open sense of repair. Not a capitulation. That life and love are a dance between the known and unknown, and knowing when to revel in each. I give The Voyeur, 1994, 3.75 stars. Part of me wishes he would explore deeper into his respective subject matters, but that would be at the expense of the most pillowy and glowing, ticklish erotica ever committed to film. And maybe that's more to the point. I love that he nods to Hitchcock and wish they did consciously dueling films, like a public throwdown of psychosexual incestuous thrillers. Be interesting to see what they would have brought out of each other. This week, my weekly pick of the week it's a three-way tie with The Voyeur, Killing Zoe, and Dreamscape. I love them all to death in their own little ways, so it's The Invisible Man. How could it not be? I don't think you get Evangelion without this. This week's bonus feature is Killing Zoe. I'm a sucker for first features, and this is a tremendous first feature, even if you're not exactly an Eric Stoltz fan. But especially if you're Cinemaxing, you have to see this. There's so much cinema in it. Thank you so much for watching. You can follow me on Instagram and X to see what movies I'm renting next, and pretty much everything is on my letterbox. I am going to go watch some more movies. I hope you do too. Pretty well.